Morning, everybody. Sorry I'm a couple of minutes late, but there you go. Okay, so So a person, any person, comes upon this idea, this suggestion, that they look at themselves. And they try to do so, and of course, as I've said a million times, if you try, you succeed. And what happens next? You know, our inclination is to, when we consider the possibility of finding some relief from the craziness of life, from its unpredictability and the feeling that there's something wrong with it, and feeling that there's something I'm missing, or I should have and don't have, or do have and shouldn't have. We're looking for a solution to that problem of being human. What we mostly expect is that, and I'm not sure how this came to pass, but what we mostly expect is that some force from outside ourselves, whether it be God or I don't know, evolution or anything, that some force outside of ourselves will come down and relieve us of all of that misery and confusion and feeling of wrongness and so forth, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a quick fix that will make us whole again in a moment. One moment we're lost in the swamp and misery of the problem of being human, the problem of feeling that something's wrong, and we expect that what we need is for the next moment everything to be magically cleared up. So when we come to spiritual teachings, or we come to religion, or we come to philosophy, or we come to seeking money, or we come to any of the other means that we've tried to relieve ourselves of the burden of being a human being, what we're looking for is something that'll fix it and get it over with. It can't be me. I can't fix it because I'm the one that's screwed up. I'm the one that's filled with all this trouble. I'm the one that doesn't know what to do about it. I'm the one who wants to get free of it. So it can't be me that's going to be the source of the solution to the problem. It has to be something outside of me that's going to bring salvation to me. Well, that hasn't worked out so well for us in our history. So here we come and we do the looking. And often it's not uncommon that in the period immediately following the doing of this act, that there's a kind of little honeymoon period where everything's like, oh boy, what a relief. Oh yeah, now I get it, everything's okay now. But generally that doesn't last very long. What happens following that, and I want to speak about this a little bit because I want to be sure that I'm not lying to you guys and giving you the false impression that what we have here is a magic trick that's going to wipe everything out. So there's a period when everything seems a sigh of relief and everything seems to be fine and I get it now and so forth and so on. And then the trouble starts. The confusion, the doubt, the anger, the fearfulness, the very disease itself can seem to spike and become worse than it ever was. Feelings of deep anxiety, feelings of deep fear, feelings in many cases, in my case, for example, I know of, feelings that I have just done something fundamentally and profoundly wrong. I have gone against everything that's true and good and worthwhile in being human, and done something that's really terribly wrong. And I don't know what it is, but I wish I hadn't done it. We have, as I've said often, we have at the forums at the community center thousands of words written by people who are in that period when things seem to just turn to trash. I don't want to use the actual kind of language that I would ordinarily, but they turn to garbage. Everything turns to garbage. Everything starts to rot. And it's the response to that mostly is the response that we have always made to those kind of experiences. Oh, woe is me, what have I done, how can I get out of it, and so forth and so on. What we've learned now over the years, the few years that we have finally come to the heart of the matter, we have learned from personal experience and from the reported experience now of hundreds of people, the reported experience of hundreds of people, that this period following the looking, when everything seems to go crazy, is just the case. It happens. It probably doesn't happen to the same intensity with everybody. I suspect that with younger people, it's less problematic and it lasts a shorter time. But it seems to happen pretty predictably to everybody. As I said, the severity of it is idiosyncratic, but the fact of it is pretty much universal. We took to calling it the period of recovery in the same sense that we speak of the fear of life as a disease and the looking as medicine. We took to calling that period when things go haywire the period of recovery. Just like any other disease, there's a period after taking the medicine when the body goes through the recovery, when the alien invaders are dying off and being expelled from the body and so forth. It's not uncommon that there's a period of apparent relapse while the body recovers from disease. And it's much like that here, too. And for the most part, like for a lot of people, nothing is done whatsoever except to bemoan the problem and to wish it would go away. You know, the same old things that we've always done about those things. Strangely enough, and optimistically enough, it turns out that, and I can say this from my own experience, because when I went through it, I certainly had no idea what was going on. I was totally and completely convinced that I had gone against everything good that humanity had to offer, and that now I was suffering the punishment for that. And despite that ignorant relationship with that experience, it all went away. And that's what we've seen over time, is that without any intervention, without any understanding, without doing anything at all, except the usual useless things that we do in those cases, that period ends for everybody. And when it ends, it's it's life, and with a whole different relationship to it. Life prevails. But what we've come to see now over the period of time when this idea of looking and the effects of it and so forth I've become more explicit about what's happening, and people have become, more and more people are coming to it and finding the same results from it. What we've found is that actually there's no need to be at the mercy of what happens in the period following the looking. And what I've come to think and what I've come to believe, and I almost would say no, is that the experiences that come, the really raw, the blooming, the fresh blossoming of anxiety and fearfulness and so forth, that these things all are a result of us, for the first time in our lives, being thrown directly in to the raw experience of being alive as a human being. Our defenses, the defenses that have come into being to protect us from life during our lifelong battle with life, are destroyed. They can't do us any good. And there we are, totally immersed, totally engaged, totally confronted with the raw experience of life as a human being, which is wild and difficult and unpredictable, wildly unpredictable. And unaccustomed as we are to actually feeling alive, the natural inclination, since we have defended ourselves against that very thing for our entire lives, the natural inclination is to see what's happened as the result of having the direct experience of life to be a recurrence or kind of punishment for what we've done, kind of punishment for us having stripped ourselves of all that protection and understanding and clarity and clarity, pseudo-clarity. And as I said, that's okay. Nothing is going to come of it. The deed is done. Once the work of the looking happens, and it happens like that, the deed is done. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing that you need to do about it. But you can, you see. What the absence of the fear of life, of the absence of that fog of confusion and anxiety about life itself, what happens when that goes is that for the first time we become capable of applying intelligent and considered, self-reliant action on what's happening to us. For the first time, we become capable of actually navigating and understanding and intelligently taking action in our lives to intelligently understand it, the life, and intelligently engage with it. Now, engaging with it, it turns out that, so far as I can see, there's only one thing we can do. I've said this before, but I want to really stress this again. It turns out that there's really only one thing we can do. Now, you can argue with me about it, we can argue about it, but I think that if you reflect on it, you'll see this to be the case also. The only thing we have any control over, so far as I can tell, is what we attend to, where we put our attention. And we don't have that much control over that. And the reason we don't have that much control over our attention is because we are unaccustomed to using it in this way. Attention goes where it wants to go, generally. For most of us, for most of our lives, bright, shiny objects capture our attention. Fearfulness captures our attention. Pain captures our attention. Promise and opportunity captures our attention. All these things that come rising and falling within the conscious experience of life, attention just kind of seems to naturally and on its own go to where it's needed to go. It turns out that natural attraction of attention to these objects is just it's just what happens when we're not taking direct control of the beam of attention ourselves. We can, and the fact the act of looking itself is an act of focusing attention in a place, in a direction where it's not accustomed to go. In fact, the act of looking at you is something that attention kind of dreads and steers away from. It's kind of the last place it wants to go. So we've already learned that we can control our attention to a certain extent. We can actually notice that we're attending to something, we can notice what attending to something feels like, and we can decide to focus on something else. During this period of recovery, that is the power of this ability to move attention is revealed in a way that it's never been before. Again, we are not that good at it, but when we try, we can see that we are attending to something that does not need attending to. For example, the experience, whatever experience it is that we have come to believe to be an indication that there's something wrong, that feeling of anxiety and generalized angst and so forth that comes to us, and it comes big in the period of recovery, that doesn't need attending to. There's no need to attend to that. It's just there. It has no real effect on us. It causes no real damage. It's just an energetic experience appearing within our consciousness, within our minds, that we have learned in the days of being ruled by the fear to identify as something that doesn't belong here and ought to go away. And that if it's here, there's something wrong. That's our automatic and habitual response to the kind of sensational experiences that have come to be identified as negative. Anxiety, confusion, frustration, things of that nature. I have a hard time remembering what they all are. But when that's happening, what we can see is that during that period when we are recovering from the fear of life itself, we can stop for a moment and see that what's happening is not that there's something wrong going on, but that there's an experience here that is naturally, for some reason, calling attention to it, and that we are indulging that experience by allowing attention to continuously rest on it and feed us information about how wrong everything is. That experience doesn't need attending to. It's just there. It has, attention can do nothing to it whatsoever except feed it and make it stay longer and make it bigger and more powerful and a bigger problem. So it turns out, and this is where the power of attention really begins to show its usefulness to us. It turns out that if we just decline to attend to that, and we don't have to worry about what we're going to attend to instead, we just decline to attend to that and move our attention deliberately to something neutral, like the breath, for example. Anything neutral, something that's not like a desire, not driven by avoidance or demonization of that experience, but just some neutral event already occurring within consciousness, like breath. Breath is good. Breath is always here. It's neutral. It's not against anything. It's not really for anything except getting breath in the body. So if we deliberately, just as we deliberately decided to try to get a taste of what it feels like to be me, if we deliberately decide to move attention away from that object that does not need attending to, doesn't need to be identified as good or bad, it's just something that doesn't need attending to, and move it to our breath, that thing that doesn't need attending to just kind of goes away. It just vanishes. And what we've seen is that these, like the sensory experience itself is neither positive nor negative. It's just a sensory experience, an experience, sensation that's occurring, that's being interpreted as positive or negative. It's clung to or avoided. It's tried to be destroyed or to be drawn closer. When we decline to attend to that, and we move attention to something neutral, that cluster of interpretation as to the nature of that particular sensory experience within that particular set of circumstances starts to go away. It loses its power. It doesn't have the same grip on the sensory experience that it used to have. And and even more importantly, I mean, that's important enough, and it works every time. But even more importantly, by doing so, we learn ourselves we become stronger in our ability to control where we put our attention, and our ability to identify those moments, those times and circumstances in which the movement of attention can do good. We begin to identify those. We begin to be stronger in our ability to control it. Not always. We'll never always be able to control our attention. We shouldn't be able to, because when danger calls our attention, it's important that it be able to go there without us having to assent to it going there. It's the habitual movement of attention to objects, to circumstance that is not dangerous, that is the problem. It's not dangerous, but is unpleasant. That's the problem. So the more we strengthen our control over our attention, and the more we understand and clearly see and are able to discriminate things that do not need attending to from things that do need attending to, the easier that time will be for us. And not only will it be easier for us during this time of recovery, but it will make our whole lives, the sooner we get control over our attention, the sooner we have a strength of purpose and understanding about what we can do with attention, the sooner we get practice and better understanding of the things that require attention and the things that don't require attention, the better off we'll be for the rest of our lives. The more effective and intelligent and effective and intelligent we'll be in our relationship with our lives from then on in. We will be able, in our ordinary day-to-day life, be able to see things that can use our attention, be able to see things that don't require our attention, be able to use our attention for things that give us, pleasure and comprehension, understanding, and effectiveness in the navigation of our life. What we're turning to when we do that is we're turning away from the idea of being helpless victims to circumstance, helpless victims to the way in which our psychology has grown over the years we've been alive, afflicted by this fearfulness. We're learning to turn away from that helplessness, which quickly becomes hopelessness, towards self-reliance. Freedom, liberation from the cloud of fear that has ruined our lives all along is not something that comes to us from outside. It's something that we we do for ourselves. It's something that requires a taste and a appreciation of self-reliance, of the fact that although I can certainly commiserate and feel compassion and so forth for the woes that people go through, there's nothing I or anyone else can directly do other than sometimes, people can, kind of, I don't know what they can do, but there's nothing they can do, nothing anybody can do about that except provide placebos or encouragement or, hope and all that stuff. Only you can do that. Only you can do anything at all about the successful and intelligent navigation of your own life. Only you can do that. No one can do that for you. No one can even really tell you how to do that. It's to the forces that are in play and the effective control that you have over attention is something that is not really accessible to saying much about, except to point out to you that you can do it. And you can decide for yourself where to put your attention. And you can decide for yourself to decline to attend to things that don't need attending to. And you can decide for yourself to attend to those things that are useful and helpful or interesting or educational or all the wonderful things that human life offers. So one of the most important things is cultivated in the recovery from this disease is that self-reliant control over your attention, over where you put your attention, over what you focus on. There's nobody that can tell you either what's good to focus on and what's bad to focus on. Only the light of human intelligence reveals that to you directly for yourself as a result of you taking direct responsibility for your own attention, which is the only thing you can take responsibility for. You're not responsible for the body you're given. You're not responsible for the circumstances in which you took birth. You're not responsible for the immense web of circumstance that shapes and guides the way your life unfolds. You're not responsible for any of that. The only thing you can take responsibility for is what you look at, what you attend to. And that power, because it's a power, that power doesn't come without deliberately exercising it, just like a muscle, just like any other thing that you have. You deliberately exercise it. You deliberately, when it occurs to you, when the opportunity arises, notice what it feels like to move your attention. Notice what it feels like to attend to something. Notice that, for example, although it's common to talk about moving the beam of attention, and I do it all the time, and it's common to talk about it as if what's happening is some object or some force is being moved from one thing to another, the actual experience of it is much different than that. The actual experience of it is that when you decide to do so, some component within your consciousness kind of lights up. It kind of it becomes more visible, more experienced within the whole scope of of experience that's part of your consciousness in any moment. So that if I tell you to, to pay attention to your breath, if I tell you to pay attention to your breath, if I suggest to you that you just quietly sit and watch your breath. There's a, and we're going to get into this. If you try to follow what I tell you to do, what you will see is that the feeling of your breath will become more prominent in your consciousness. It's not that you're moving something like a moving finger, although it may feel that way. The actual experience of it is that the thing that you are trying to attend to becomes more prominent in your consciousness. The most useful and effective thing to do, I think, is to deliberately train your attention. Train your attention to, exercise it. Do it as a I hate to say a practice, but a kind of a practice. And the best way I have found, the easiest, the least difficult, the thing that has the most long-term effect on the control over attention for ordinary people, just, people like you and me, is this business of mindfulness training. Mindfulness training, and it's usually called mindfulness meditation, but I find that to be not very descriptive of its actual effect. So I call it mindfulness training. It's very old. Everybody here probably already knows it or has done it or has heard of it. And it simply consists in this. And I want us to do this for just a few minutes here this morning, just to get used to what it is that I'm talking about. And this is something that I think that would be very valuable for you to take up and do it whenever it occurs to you to do so. Just whenever you have the opportunity to do so. It's not going to give you anything. All it's going to do is train you and train your attention in a way that makes it easier for you to control it, easier for you to decide where attention goes. And it goes like this. You just sit. It doesn't really matter whether you're sitting, standing, laying down, standing on your head, or doing anything else, but I find it's more comfortable just to sit kind of quietly. It doesn't matter whether your eyes are open or closed. Most people find it a little bit easier to do it with the eyes closed, but it really doesn't matter one way or the other. There's no particular posture for you to take on. Just sit comfortably so that you're not distracted by, discomfort. And the object of this is going to be to count to 10. It's going to be to count breath from 1 to 10. Now, what you can see as you start to breathe, as you start to do this, you'll see that the breath actually, the act of breathing, actually has a number of components to it. It has at least 4 components to it, and actually there's more, but there are 4 components to it that are easiest to see. The one component is the passage of the breath into the body, the in-breath, the feeling of the breath as it comes into the body. Another component of it is the stopping of that movement of breath into the body at the end of the in-breath. That's another moment, component of the arc of the breath itself. The next component of it is the out-breath, as the breath goes out of the body. And the fourth component is the ending of the out-breath, and there's a moment of nothing happening, a very brief moment of nothing happening as the out-breath is finished. I've also found that in the course of this, in the course of the out-breath and the in-breath, the passage of the breath across the nostrils as it comes into or out of the body produces a very particular and discrete sensation for the in-breath and for the out-breath that's actually quite easy to attend to. But you can attend to anything. Like when you breathe in, that's 1. When you breathe in again, that's 2. When you breathe in again or out or whatever, that's 3, and so forth. The object of this training is to count your breath at whatever point that you want to count it, but stay in the same point. Count your breath. For every breath, you count 1. And the object of this is to keep your attention on that breath, the way your breath is moving, until you can count to 10. Now what you'll find, unless you're an experienced meditator, and I know we have a few experienced meditators here, what you will find, unless you're an experienced meditator, is that you'll be lucky to get past 2. I know many years ago when I first was taught this, that I had a hard time getting past 2, and it was really frustrating and quite a revelation to me. But it doesn't matter, you might get all the way to 10. It doesn't matter whether you're distracted or not distracted. The point is to hold your attention on your breath for 10 complete breaths, counting at a particular moment. What generally happens is that after a couple of breaths, because a breath takes 5 seconds, a good 5 seconds to complete. And what happens is that all this other stuff that's going on in your consciousness is much more interesting than what's happening while you're waiting for the next in-breath or you're waiting for the next out-breath. So attention skitters out to that. And you might find yourself hopped on some train of thought that takes you God knows where. I know what that is like. When that happens, if it happens, this is a long explanation for a very simple thing, but I want to make sure we get it right. When that happens, what you do is you simply notice and say to yourself quietly, distracted. That's all, distracted. And then you start over again at 1. And then if it happens again, when you notice it's happened, and you won't notice it's happened right away if you're caught on a train of thought. When you notice it's happened, you just say to yourself again, distracted, and return to counting again. This is, in my experience, the best exercise for learning to control attention that there is. And it's not that there are specialized kind of meditation practices that are designed specifically to increase the power of attention. It's not like that, but it's the kind of thing that anybody can do. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have long instruction. You don't have to have the kind of endurance that like Vipassana requires of you. All you have to do is sit quietly and count your breath. So let's try it this morning. Let's start right now. Let's just close your eyes or leave your eyes open and start counting your breath for a little bit. And I'll yell at you when it's time to stop. Okay? So just sit quietly. Find a place in your breath that you want to use as the counting point and just start counting. If you get distracted, just notice that you're distracted and start over again. Okay. I have become quite accustomed to this. I do it all the time. In fact, I often use it to time things. I've learned that my full breath takes 5 seconds, so that 12 full breaths take a minute. And this time I counted to 60, because I figured that's about 5 minutes. I really advise you to do this anytime it occurs to you to do it. And you don't have to be sitting, you don't have to be, as you're walking around, as you're mowing the lawn, as you're cooking dinner. You can take a moment, just a few moments, and just practice this. I mean this in a pragmatic sense. Practice this. Train yourself to be able to control your attention. And I guarantee you that this will stand you in good stead for everything in your life. Learning to control your attention will make you more effective in everything you do. It'll make you more effective in seeing the mistakes you make. It'll make you more effective in seeing the path to correcting the mistakes you make. It'll make you more effective in seeing the trouble when it's on the horizon. It'll make you more effective in seeing what needs to be done to deal with trouble on the horizon. It'll make you more effective in every aspect of your life, just to do this simple little thing whenever it occurs to you to do so. And if you enter this period of recovery, if you're new to the looking and enter the period of recovery and find yourself tormented, which is often the experience of it, and find yourself tormented, turn to your breath. Move your attention away from that which does not need attending to, and to something that is harmless and neutral and reliable. The best of that is the breath. There's no way that I can overemphasize the importance of understanding that you are, in one really true sense, you are on your own. You're not alone, but you're on your own. No one can come into your consciousness and make you do what needs to be done. No one can clear up the confusion and distress that you feel except you. And you can do that by the simple, practical exercise of learning how to attend to what needs to be attending to, and to decline to attend what does not need attending to. And to do it without demonizing that which you're moving your attention away from. None of these things are demons. None of them. The demons are what we make of them. So, okay, I'm done talking then. I wanted to get through that, and that's your turn. Anybody want to talk to me? Hi.
Hi, John.
Do I know your name?
I'm Tom.
Hi, Tom.
I'm Gerlach from
I didn't know your name, but I'm good.
Well, I had an experience this morning to be able to use what we're doing here. I'll explain a little bit to you. Is that sort of kind of funny, and you may want to edit this, Carla. This morning I got up and I walked into the shower with nothing but a towel. And I forgot I left my keys in the room. Well, the fear came, and then it went because I used looking.
Uh-huh.
And I smelt the eggs from the kitchen. So I had to walk down the stairs in a towel and knock on the door and ask the cook to find me a key where a guy could go back in and dress. So it worked. I was not nervous. I just did it.
That's right. It's just a circumstance.
It was just a
that's all.
circumstance.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I am in recovery from alcohol for 27 years. And I had an experience 27 years ago after my wife had left me that week. I got fired from running my job, and I got sober all in the same week. I had an experience in my little room that I had to go to from the house. And desperation set in, fear set in, bewilderment set in, and I totally gave up. And I guess I screamed out to a God or whatever was there to help me. And I mentioned to some of the people in here today that this white light experience, this immediate knowing, through the process, I saw this darkness leave and this white come in, or this good come in. I don't know what it was. And I kind of guessed that it was God or whatever. I don't know. But I have never had a drink since that day. And I had been trying to quit drinking for years. So I got into Alcoholics Anonymous, and I learned what was going on. And I learned that the problem was about living rather than the symptom of alcohol. But through the 27 years, what you said earlier about the angst and still the under-anxiety was still there. It was called a dry drunk, I guess that's what they try to call that. And I didn't know anything about you until about a month and a half ago when I was trying to bring up a Krishnamurti YouTube thing. And there was John Sherman. I said, who's John Sherman? So I clicked on and I started reading what you were doing. And I tell you, it all just faded away. AA, all the spiritual journey I've been on, faded away. And I didn't know how to come up here and say that. But I'm so grateful that I discovered you and Carla and what you're doing. It's just, I see so many in AA still suffering.
Yeah.
That do not know how to let go. It's the third step is turn my will and my life over to the care of God as we understand Him. Well, I never did understand that.
Yeah.
The 11th step was thought through prayer and meditation, continue my conscious contact with God, which I never understood that. But I got into the search, and I searched for a very long time. But like I say, when I met you a month and a half ago, it just stopped.
That's good news.
Thank you.
That's very good news.
That's all I got.
That's
all I got.
That's plenty. Except,
So what do we do with AA?
well, you know, I mean,
What do we do with ours?
AA has gotten a lot of people sober. I had a guy, and I haven't seen him for a long time, but he once gave me his, what was that, 10-year
Chip.
chip?
The chip. Yeah, the chip. 10-year chip.
As a, you know, and he just gave it to me, and because it's really obvious. I see the good work that AA has done. My mother was an alcoholic. I didn't know that at the time. You know, all I knew was that she hated me, and that was pretty much.
I understand that.
That's right. But and you know, getting people sober is a worthwhile thing to do. But it really is true that takes a lot of like a tight grip on things. You know, it takes like you're saying, like trying to do things that you don't understand, right? That's
Exactly.
the way it works.
Exactly.
And that's the way so many things that are therapeutic work, trying to make us do what we don't understand. And that may correct behaviors, like it has with you. It corrected the behavior of getting drunk, but it doesn't in any way have an effect on the underlying problem that alcoholism was a symptom of. And so I'm really happy to see you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very
And,
much.
Yeah, and stay in touch.
I will. I
Very.
much will. Thank
Stay
you.
in touch.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm Kevin.
Kevin,
Yeah, nice to meet
my
you.
pleasure.
Oh, I feel nervous. So when I first got your email, it said something like this. It sounded really messianic, and this is what we got to do. We got to have people just take one look, and we got to just get that out there. And I was basically kind of repulsed by it, and I felt like it sounded desperate to me, something like that. Anyways, what I want to confess is that I don't really know. I mean, as I sit there in my chair, it's like, wow, he's saying that 18 to 35-year-olds seem to kind of go quicker with this, and I don't. You're just describing what you've been involved with. And I just saw my mind just do different things with it. Like I've been around different non-dual groups, and it's a subject of a lot of conversation. Is there something to do to more accentuate the process, to come out of separation and fear? And do we do a practice more? Do I go to satsang more? Do I la la la? Or do I not do something? The whole shenanigan.
We sure make it complicated, don't
Yeah,
we?
yeah. I mean, you can go on. I can go on and on. But that's all I really wanted to say. Is I noticed my mind do different things with it, and the truth is I don't really know. And it sounds.
Have you looked at yourself?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I like to do that.
Yeah. Well, then,
Yeah, and there's times where I'd even challenge you on the. It seems like when the separation goes, the fear goes. They kind of go. I think it's kind of splitting hairs, but there's a physical sensation that like it's on life itself. There's no more gap between me and my life.
yes, that's the result of the looking.
Yeah, but that kind of waxes and wanes, and
Sure it does.
but it even
But see, that's part of your life. The waxing and waning is part of your life.
It is what
it's
it
just
is.
the way the life unfolds.
yeah, it's the way it's doing it.
Yeah. What we offer here is not some kind of a panacea where all the confusion will leave, all the doubt will leave, all the negative experiences will leave, and everything will be a bright, shining light of clarity and so forth. This is a human life. And we have spent most of our human lives trying to escape from our human lives. And so that what the looking does is it throws us back into our human lives, and just exactly as they are. It erases that distance, that
Assessment.
yeah,
Company.
and so that the way that the life unfolds is just the way the life unfolds. There's little that you can do about it, but a lot of the ways in which the mind understands and relates to the life will, for a time, still be the old ways of understanding and relating to life. This is not like magic. I mean, sometimes it seems like magic, but it's not like magic in that it wipes out every trace of ignorance or darkness or confusion or that is present, because you have a lifetime of the accumulation of understandings and relationships with things that are predicated on the assumption that life is out to get you. That's just the case. And it's not the eradication of that alienation from life is all that is accomplished in the act of looking, is the eradication of that distance. The rest of it is as it is, and you now become equipped with the capacity of relating to your life in an intelligent and sane manner, instead of out of ignorance and fear and not knowing what's going on, and oh, what's this guy saying, what's that guy saying,
Struggle.
struggle and all that, then that becomes unnecessary, because now you have control over something that you hadn't had control over before, which is your attention.
Where I
really.
put my attention.
Where you put your attention. And you're no longer looking at your life through a haze of confusion and fearfulness. You're experiencing your life directly, raw. And it is like this business about, the things remaining, right? The ways of looking at things and so forth remaining, still for me.
I noticed that when you said it yesterday.
A very recent example of that, which is very trivial on the face of it, but it's indicative, okay, is that I do most of the driving. In fact, I pretty much do all the driving, right? And that seems to work out well for Carla and I, but she doesn't drive much. And I have a particular style of driving that, like everybody does, right? I like to drive at 10% over the speed limit, and in the left lane. I like the left lane because it feels safer, right? I've only got cars on this side, nobody over here, and I can keep going. Well, Carla, on the other hand, likes to drive in a different way. Her way of driving is different than mine, and she prefers to go not so fast and stay in the right lane or the middle lanes or so forth and so on. Well, whenever we have a retreat, we rent a car, so that, because we need 2 cars, so that I can leave and Carla can be on her own and so forth. But when we go to pick up the car, when we're on the way back from picking up the car, Carla's following me, okay? And most of the time, it is a really irritating experience for her, because she's like, I'm always disappearing, right? And I'm not doing the way she likes it. And I, of course, have always felt, well, that's just, what can I do? That's just the way I drive. And the other day, the last time that we went to pick up a car and drive back, it just hit me suddenly, that whole business about that's just the way I drive and I have nothing I can do about it, just kind of vanished. And it just occurred to me that it would be much more fun to just drive the way Carla wanted me to drive.
Check it out.
Yeah. And that's an example of what I'm talking about pockets of ignorance that persist, and mostly they persist because they're kind of harmless, right? And they don't cause much trouble, and they don't call attention to themselves. But pockets of ignorance that persist for a long, long time after ridding yourself of the fear, until they don't, right? And then they just kind of fall away. That's the thing about this work that is different. Nothing new comes. There's nothing new that's given to you. All that is given to you is loss. First, the loss of the fear, and then a period of time when, for many people, a period of time when the pockets of ignorance that are really important, right, begin to crack and fall away, and things get real crazy and so forth. And then you kind of get on an even keel, and then just from time to time, you'll notice that something else has fallen away. You might not notice it when it falls away, because, we don't notice things that aren't there, right? But you notice at some point, oh, I haven't done that in a long time. I haven't thought that way in a long time. So, this is different from anything else. There's nothing like this that I have ever seen. The effect of it is reliable and consistent, and it's not magical. Like, it's not, oh, everything's wiped out, Or here's a bright white light that now clears everything out of you, right? It's you and your life. It's you and your life as your life really is, as it actually unfolds, which includes an array of neurotic relationships with recognizable sets of circumstance. And those neurotic relationships, they begin to fall away. But they don't all go at once. The only ones that go at once are the worst ones. And they go out kicking and screaming. And then as time goes on, the other ones come, like the stopping smoking, right? Just fell away. It just like that, like getting the idea that maybe it'd be more fun to drive the way Carter wanted me to than the way I wanted to.
What an idea.
Yeah. And the consistent work with training the power, your control over your attention is the most useful thing that can possibly be done.
Like you said, it's the only thing we can control.
It's the only thing we can control. And the better we become at it, the better we are at effectively relating to the way our life unfolds. And actually seeing the things that the natural light of human intelligence reveals, actually being able to see those things and use our power to control attention to affect things, to change the way things unfold. If you don't attend to it, it doesn't have food.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the case. So you just learn to do that, and everything comes out right in the end.
Thank you, John.
Okay? Okay. Anybody else? Yeah. John, right? Ah, well, I'm proud of myself. From Alabama, right?
It starts with A, Arkansas.
Arkansas, I knew it was an A, and in the South. Alabama. It's a new Neil Young version of Oh Susanna that it really, I enjoy. I get, I come from Alabama with my BANJO. I'm sorry about that. I have no discipline.
You don't need any, do you?
No, not so far as I can tell.
It's been great listening to the folks that have come up here this morning. I'm finding stuff dropping away. AA dropped away a couple years ago now, after 20 years. Okay. Some stuff naturally goes, some stuff has to be pried loose, so I'm finding. It's been a hell of a year. A lot of painful prying has occurred this year. And it would be easy just to kind of be caught in the story like I had been for a few months, but there's no point in staying in the story and refocusing attention. I think is what has moved me out of that being stuck.
Yes, that's it.
That's what did it.
That's it.
I'm sorry. I've been around this deal for about 4.5 years now, and this thing mutates what we're doing here. I mean, the looking at yourself has been there, but what got me, the first thing I read is that you're not your life, and all of a sudden, man, the sky opened up. That was good. I had to hear that. It was beautiful. And
That was a long time ago.
it was a long
Yeah.
time ago. And I sense that it's mutating again. It's like even though looking at yourself is like foundation, refocusing attention is almost equal in the weight that's being placed on it.
Yes, you see, yes it is, and because we're learning, this is not something, this business of looking at yourself and the effects of it and how they unfold is not something that dropped from the sky. It's something we're learning. We, all of us together, are learning. And so that yes, the focus, but you have to see that the looking itself is an act of deliberate focusing of attention. There's no way to look unless you try to focus your attention.
Right.
So that, in fact, the power of attention is the power of attention is all of it. But the looking has to come first. The looking has to come first in order to get rid of the grip of that underlying sense that there's something wrong. There's something wrong that I can't do anything about.
You mean before I can focus on refocusing my attention?
Right. Before you can recover from the disease, you must first heal the disease, cure the disease. So that's why the looking comes first. But the looking isn't magic. I mean, it is kind of. It's really amazing. Really, I say it's not magic, but I have to say that it almost feels like magic because it's just mechanical. It's like, I guess when antibiotics first appeared, right, they were like magic too. Things that used to put people in bed and kill them, suddenly people would get better as a result of taking some substance into their body that had nothing about it at all that could be, like, it doesn't make you high, doesn't make you low, doesn't put you to sleep. It just fixes the disease. And that's what the looking is like.
And we're left here, I didn't know why I needed to come. I mean, I thought, I guess that there's a hope that maybe that there's something that I've missed that I was going to get more clarity on or something, But more clarity hasn't happened.
No,
There
and
wasn't any more
that's
clarity revealed here. I
right.
could leave today. In fact, I'm probably going to have to catch my little plane back to Arkansas. But we're just here.
That's
That's all
right.
we got.
And you all you have to rely on is you.
Yeah.
That is the critical insight. All you have to rely on is you.
Yeah.
And all you have that you can do, relying on yourself, is focus your attention. Is decide where to put your attention and where not to put your attention. And that's it. And that's what does the looking. That's what rids you of the fear in the first place. And that's what gives you the strength and the intelligence and the power to navigate your life effectively without being swallowed up by stupidity.
It's come up a couple of times with the people sharing about whether it's separation or fear, and you've spoken to, well, separation somehow supports life. That's sort of what this life is I used to go to a satsang teacher in Arkansas, and he was a poet, and he said only separate lips can kiss, which is kind of puts it in a nutshell of the beauty of separation. But there's neurotic separation too, just like there is healthy fear and neurotic fear.
Here's what it is, right? We are born into this world as separate beings, as like a separate being with a mind and a history that begins with birth and that is particular and peculiar to you, or for me, to me. We are separate, self-conscious individuals. That's the case. That's the experience of life as a human being, as a separate self-conscious individual. And it is that separate self-consciousness that makes everything possible. Makes it possible to even know you're alive. Makes everything possible, that separate self-consciousness, that separate certainty that you are conscious and here. All right? Now, the fear itself has one agenda, and that's to keep you out of the danger that your life represents. So the fear itself creates a new kind of separation, which is a separation of you from the experience of your life. That is a symptom of the fear. And that's what goes when the fear goes. This continuing sense of being a separate individual remains. And it remains even though it may be quite apparent to you that in a certain sense that's not true. Still, that remains. And that's the wonder of being alive as a human being. That's the magnificence of being alive as a human being. I have nothing whatsoever against that. Now, it is the case, it is simply the case that all is one. That's just the case. The fact that there are separate individuals appearing within this oneness is beside the point. It's just the case. So that the fact that all is one has no meaning, has no use to us. It doesn't do anything for us. It doesn't take anything away from us. It doesn't change anything at all. And contemplating on it just drives you crazy. Right? But you already know it's the case. It's not a knowing that needs to be translated into discursive thought and theories and all of that stuff. It doesn't need that. It's just the case. Here we are. Me, the wood, the stones, the rocks, the trees, all the same thing.
You get that from direct experience
Yes,
of it.
that's right. But it doesn't mean anything. There's no... To be alive, and it's a miracle that within a reality that is one, that is inseparable and one, that there could appear this experience of separate existence without which reality could not even perceive itself. You know, I mean, it's like a miracle.
But isn't that, isn't that the healthiness of separation?
Yes.
That's the nature of
Yes.
of this
Yes,
illusion
yes.
that we're all
Yes,
taking part
yes, and it's wonderful.
in. But is there not a potential of separation becoming a neurosis? And in the same
Certainly,
way
that's when the fear is present.
Yeah.
When that fear is present, then there's a new kind of a class of separation, which is a separation of you from your life, an attempt to build some firewall between you and your life in order to protect you from your life.
And the looking penetrates
And
the firewalls.
it penetrates the firewall, takes it away. It's just like it is like if you throw something dry into the water, it gets wet, right? When the looking occurs, the reality of the circumstance reveals itself to itself beyond any possibility of denial, and that layer of fear goes away. And then you're thrown, and like in the case of you and me or people that are a little bit older, you're thrown into a life that is raw and unpredictable and difficult and complicated and immensely interesting and satisfying when you begin to learn how to navigate its rapids, right? And that's what you got. And then the rest of your life is spent learning about being alive as a human being, but free of the fog of fear that previously has made it impossible for us to have any real contact with our life at all. And
It is
there you are.
immensely satisfying. It is.
Yes, it is satisfying.
I'll give it
and,
that.
and you're always learning. You see, the one human, the one thing that humans do that is the most satisfying, that really always satisfies, no matter what the object of it is learning. Doesn't matter whether you just learn that, I don't know, like something about the color blue, and it's just like, wow, just the experience of learning something that you had not previously seen is all that we have ever wanted. And when we are no longer separate from our lives, it is an immense engine of things to be learned. It doesn't matter what you're doing or where you're doing it, you turn around, there's something that you're like, oh, I got that now, I see that. I'm recently learning how to shave with an electric razor. And I'm quite excited about it. Sometimes I'll just notice some different way to move the razor, and I think, wow, that felt good. It's learning, and that's what you get now, right? That you didn't have before. The fear keeps you from learning. It wants everything to stay away. And what we've mostly done in trying to find salvation and reconciliation in the midst of that fear is go back to sleep. Most of the stuff we've done in the name of waking up are actually most likely to put us back to sleep. No thought, no ego, nothing moving, everything still, everything silent. It is what Freud called the death wish. And it's a very real thing. And in human beings that are afflicted with the fear of life, it's like, why, Bob, what? Why am I here? What has gone on here? What's so good about life anyway? Let me go back to sleep. Let me go back to the womb. Let me go back to where there's no perturbance, no confusion, nothing, actually. And that particular thing goes very quickly, because life is magnificent. It's a great mystery, and it's magnificent. Yep. Good to see you, John. Everything is cattywampus, and all the ways in which we try to deal with its cattywampousness are themselves cattywampus. They're upside down. We are afraid, we're scared to death of life, and we're not even allowed to admit that we're scared of life. That is a forbidden topic. We're scared to death of life. We're not even allowed to admit that we're scared of life. Oh no, I'm not scared of life. I'm scared of dying, or I'm scared of getting hit by a car, or I'm scared of sickness, or I'm scared of losing my wife, or I'm scared of not having money, or whatever. But life, no, I'm not scared of life. No, not me. But that's it. We're scared of our lives, and by being scared of our lives, by that, it's not our fault, see? That's the other thing. It's really critical to see that nobody's to blame for any of this. It's an accident that comes upon us unexpected. It's an accident that afflicts us in the very beginning of our lives. Nobody's to blame. We're not to blame. Everybody, I swear to you, everybody in the world, from the most vicious, terrible torturer and mass murderer to the saint, everybody in the world is doing the very best that they can with what they have to work with. Everybody in the world is trying to live life while being completely blinded by the fog of fear. Everybody is trying to do the best they can. And the way in which the best they can manifest and forms itself is particular and idiosyncratic to the individual, to the circumstances in which they came into the world and the circumstances that surrounded them in childhood and the circumstances surrounded them during their adult life, the odd chance that makes this happen rather than that happen. And that's what forms the whole personality, the whole psychological structure by means of which everybody engages with their life as best they can. So that everybody's in the same boat. Nobody's to blame. Nobody is to blame. Nobody caused this to happen. And it's, and I have to say that it is this business, this affliction, this fear of life is what has given rise to all the stories about original sin, for example. You know, the being afflicted by something that has nothing to do with anything we've done, but we can't deny that it's here. This problem, this wrongness, this feeling of a need to get something or get rid of something. That's original sin. Oh, that's what it is. It's because of original sin. I get it now. Well, I just have to live with it and get by as best I can and so forth and so on. But that's what this is. That's what this fear is. This fear has sickened and made crazy the entire human species for as long as the entire human species has been at least for as long as it's been civilized, if I can use such a word. Probably from the beginning in the savannas when we were able to protect ourselves from things because we could stand erect. Probably from way back then, this has been afflicting us. And now we can be done with it. It really is not a big deal. That's the other thing to see about it. It is not a big deal. This fear isn't big. It's something that's easily dealt with, easily gotten rid of, once you know what to do. It's not the big dark cloud, yeah. Anybody else? Lyra. It's really nice to see you.
It's good to be here. Okay. I'm still in recovery, and my question today is about where to put attention, because I've found that it's very helpful. But sometimes there's a question about at what point do I, in other words, where does my attention need to be pulled away? And a lot of that had to do, I think, with the idea that I had to be in integrity and I had to know where I am.
Yes, right.
Know where I am and admit where I am and be truthful about it. So, aside from that, because I'm not asking about that, but I do seem to have a no in my body. I feel it. It's like tension and a whole complex of feelings and so forth. And I seem to have a desire to be free of that and a desire to experience life with a yes instead of the no. So my question, is it better to pull the attention away from the desire and also from the experience in the body? Or both of them, or one or the other?
Well, when I'm recommending the breathing exercise, the mindfulness exercise, I am asking you to put your attention on the body, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
The breathing is the body, and the body is a relatively neutral environment, unless there's some real neurotic relationship with the body, but usually that's not the case. Usually there might seem that way, but it's really not the case. When you move your attention to your breath, it's kind of neutral. It doesn't call attention to itself as, oh, this is a wonderful thing, or oh, this is a terrible thing. It's just breath, coming in and out, breath. So, but I say the breath because I know how effective it is, but you can put your attention on anything in your body. You know, I mean, there's no need for you to choose to use the breath as it. You can put your attention on the, you know, like the feel of your hand on the microphone,
Well,
or your big toe, or your
again,
tongue.
again, if I need to specify a specific spot, because if I put my attention on the no in my body, which is an anxiety, a kind of anxiety, it seems
that's
like that
not-
would be
see-
causing it to increase.
That's right. See,
Yeah.
there's no need to put that no, as you call it,
Yeah.
right? And you see, of course, that's an unnecessary
Right.
kind of curlicue on it, right? You put your attention on that doesn't need attending to.
Right.
Nothing you can do about that with your attention will be of any use whatsoever. It simply does not need attending to. It's on its own. So that's what you move your attention away from. You just deliberately determined to move your attention away from it. And it'll go back to it. You know, this isn't something that, like, it's done once and then it's over with. It'll go back to it, but then it goes back to it. You say, oh, move your attention away from it again. And over time, it will diminish. And the time will come, and you won't even notice it, but the time will, when it happens, but the time will come when it'll be the last time that it actually appears and tries to call attention. It's calling attention to itself is a really apt description of what's actually happening. It calls attention to itself. You move attention away from it. After a while, it stops calling attention to itself because it's been starved. The energy that it gets to exist is your attention. That's where it gets that energy. It's like plugging it into a wall socket. That's where its energy comes from. So you just decline to attend to it, move your attention away from it, and go back to your life.
Okay. On the same, topic, is there any role for desire in after you've looked? In
What
other
kind?
words, desire meaning like the desire, not necessarily the desire to do something. Like I'm going to go buy something, or go play something, or learn something, but in the like my desire to want to experience life more fully. Would that be the neurotic aspect of that?
I doubt it. You know when desire is neurotic and when it's not. I mean, to call it desire is to hang a neurotic label on it to begin with.
Okay.
But there's a natural affinity between you and your life. There's a natural affinity, a natural attraction between you and your life. That is just the case, and that has been thwarted for all of your life by the interference and the interjection of this fog of fearfulness and anxiety. This worrying about whether desire is good or bad. That doesn't need attending to. That doesn't need attending to.
Okay.
What needs attending to is your life. That's all, just your life as it unfolds. The things in your life that need your attention, like if the dishes are dirty, for example,
Yeah.
or if the cat needs to be fed, or if the bed needs to be made, or whatever you're doing. Those are the natural resting places of attention in which there's no conflict whatsoever, no confusion, no neurotic entanglement with it. But whenever there's this thing present that seems like the desire to be more deeply connected with your own life, that implies the fact that you're not connected to your own life.
Right.
So that doesn't need attending to. Let that do it, be on its own. Move your attention away from it.
Okay.
It's of no consequence. Move it to your breath. Move it to any part of your body. Move it to something you're doing. Move it to vacuuming the floor, or, you know.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay.
And we are, especially, you know, some of us who have been around the block in spiritual work and things of that nature, we have a lot of remnants of ideas like desire's bad, desire's the problem, or separation is the problem, or this is the problem, or that's the problem. Well, these guys are all like troops, right? That have been doing good service from their point of view for all of your life, keeping you safe from these things. And now they are useless. They've had their very reason for existence yanked out from under them. And there they are floating around trying to find something to do. Of course, none of this is actually happening, but it feels like that. They're floating around trying to find something to do, and they say, oh, wait a minute, Lyra, what about this? Isn't this idea that you want to be closer to your life, isn't this desire and something that needs to be something to be done about it? And sure enough, I'll put my attention on it and see, is this something that needs something to be done about, right?
Yeah.
Just say no. No. Just say no.
Okay. Yeah.
This is much simpler than we've made it out to be in the past.
Yeah, I think you're right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay, I guess we're going to go now. For this session, anyway. I don't have anything more to say except that I'm so grateful to all of you for being here and for trying to follow along. I'm not always really good at what I'm trying to do, but my heart is good. And I want nothing but to be useful to you and helpful to you. And I tell you that what we spoke about this morning, this business of moving attention, is once you've done the looking, you know, it's like once you take the antibiotic, you don't have to worry about that anymore. But this business of actually determining to control your attention, to decline to attend to what doesn't need attending to attend effectively and so forth to the actual circumstances of your life, this will keep you, this will serve you for the rest of your life. Really. This will serve you in the recovery from the disease that has previously caused you so much trouble. It'll hasten the recovery, it'll clarify the recovery, and it'll serve you for the rest of your life to make you more effective at anything you're trying to do, whether it's vacuuming the floor or anything. So, because that's all you have, really, that's it. Everything, you must see that. Everything else, like right now in this room as we're sitting here, the circumstances in this room, the relationship you have with me, the way you think about me, the way I think about you, and all of those things, those are already present. There's nothing that can be done about them. Really. Nothing that can be done about them. They are like the surface of a vast ocean of cause and effect. There's nothing that can be done about them. But by training yourself and learning to focus your attention, to decline to attend what doesn't need attending to be able to distinguish between that does need attending to and that doesn't, that reaches down into a little deeper into that ocean of cause and effect and changes things. It changes things. So thank you again. I'll see you this afternoon, and enjoy yourself, enjoy this beautiful paradise that we live in here, and see you later.